Hello there, everyone. And as they say in Germany, Guten Rutsch. This is, it means Happy New Year. It sort of, it means to slide. A Rutsch is a kind of gliding or a slide. I always think of it like on a bit of ice and you slide from one year into the next. So Happy New Year. And also here with me today in Christine Kevin's Happy Hour Chat is, of course, my co-host, Kevin. Happy
Hello
New Year,
there.
Kevin.
Hello there. Happy New Year to you, Christy. Happy New Year to everybody listening either live or later on. I don't have any German-based factoids for you, so probably best.
But you do have the Hogmanay, which is well, it's more Scottish, but it
Yeah.
includes Britain. So the
Well,
Hogmanay is what?
the Logan clan were, of course, well, actually, there were two Logan clans, there were the Highland and the Lowland Logans.
Oh, really?
I do, and I even know my family motto in Latin, Hoc Majorum Virtus, which means in the value of our ancestors. So that's a little factoid about the Logan clan for you. Well done.
Well, there we go. Now we're all a little bit smarter about you. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you said you had a very merry holiday season.
My liver is screaming. But it's tough shit. Yeah, I had a great time, but I was basically the last week or so has been a drunken sort of haze, basically. But it's been a lot of fun. I've seen people I haven't seen fucking years at various soirees and such. So that's been fun. How about yourself? How well? Tell everyone all about your journeys around art history.
Well, yes, I put up a video for those on my channel. You might have already seen it, a postcard from Florence. Kevin is talking about the trip that I took. I got on a bus. Basically, on Christmas Day, I left and traveled most of the 26th, arrived into Florence, had a day on my own, which was kind of nice. Then I met up with some friends and we toured around various places in Florence, including the Uffizi Gallery with its overwhelming collection of 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th century artwork, some ancient pieces as well. At least they might have more. That was all the. After 4 hours, there's only so many Madonna and Childs that you can look at before it just washes over you. Then we also visited the Accademia, the gallery that hosts many pieces of Michelangelo's, well, mostly his slaves, and then also David, the statue of David, which was very overwhelming to see in person. Really fantastic.
Yeah, but there was
And
specifically one part of him that wasn't overwhelming, wasn't there?
no, his yeah, unfortunately, his little toe got smashed in the 1990s.
Yeah.
No, but this is actually one of the things is yes. So you see a big David, and he's not very. He's a grower, not a shower. I think David. I would say.
Even that's at that size. I really don't think he's even a grower. I mean, unless it's got some sort of magical beam properties to it, that's you're not getting much from that. You know what I mean?
But that was better than what I saw at the Palace, which was actually very disturbing because of a, I guess, puritanical wave that went through Italy at some point. There are basically all the male statues that are in what was the palace, the state palace. The Medici lived there for a while, for instance. All of the male statues, there's just holes in their pubic hair because they've broken all of their penises off.
Well, at least the Victorians of Britain with their naked statues during our puritanical phase, we just put leaves over them. We didn't actually
Yeah.
finish their cocks off, which you think is at least.
It,
I mean, it's still shit, and you shouldn't fucking destroy other people's artwork in any
yes.
way. But if you're going to, at least I don't knock their cock off. Jesus Christ.
It was quite disturbing to look at. You see this sort of male nudes, and then you just get to this hole in the crotch area. And I was describing my uncomfort or discomfort at it, and my male companion said, "Well, think about how we feel." Like, fair point. I don't have an empathetic relation to that. That I just felt like they should take a model of the penis from the statue of David and like make them proportional and get some, blue tack or something, and then just put little plastic or plaster penises back on these poor sort of male statues that have been, physically mutilated in
Well,
a sort of
I
slavish
really,
adherence to puritanical norms.
yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not a fan of sort of religious puritanism as it is, but especially when it starts getting into the realms of fucking with other people's art and destroying pieces of ancient art, it makes me want to break skulls, frankly. It drives me mad. The self-importance that you must have as a person to even think you could get away. Oh, well, obviously they did get away with it, but in a moral sense, get away with something like that is disgusting. Fuck you. Whoever did all of that, fuck you.
Yeah, it's like I said, it sort of sticks with you. It ruins the artwork entirely because of that flaw that you can't help being drawn to because it's a dark spot in the middle of the body.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. I mean, beautifully described. But the problem is now, what we've got is we've just had a relatively highbrow discussion, or a discussion of highbrow things, including some of the greatest artwork that our species has ever created, and now we're going to go on to talk about some random load of old shit as as we usually do, which I can't help but feel we've led with our best material, but I can't help but feel our second lot of material is just not in keeping, frankly.
Oh, definitely. We've done the highbrow stuff. Now we're going to go completely gutter, and I'm going to be unashamed about it because I have to say I am watching the machinations in the former skeptic community with a sort of impatient anticipation of a World Wrestling Federation soap opera match, you know, because of all the little side dramas that are going on now and the little beefs, and it's just exploded outwards, and it's sort of ricocheted throughout the skeptic community, dragging in all kinds of people, including people that I don't think have been involved for a long time, like Harmful Opinions. So yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so much mud and muck and gunk to be raked over here. Where do we start?
Yeah, you said something about V when we were talking earlier, and I have to say I've been slightly out of the loop for the last few days because, like I say, I've been not really uh, legally responsible for my actions anymore, or morally anyway, because I've been off my face. So why don't you tell us all about the beef involving V or whoever the fuck is involved? Because I was unsurprised to see his name mentioned because I don't think that he's one of these people who could start a fight in an empty room, basically.
Yes, well, V apparently has this beef with Harmful Opinions going back for quite a ways. And V is of the opinion that he is fine not talking about Harmful Opinions, but Harmful Opinions can also not say anything about him. This is kind of the bearing logic. I'm not going to talk about you, Christy, but then you also have to not talk about me. Yeah, you don't get to tell other people what they talk about. If other people talk about you, you can ignore it. I've been ignoring Noel Plum for a really long time. It's easy, you know. You just don't pay attention if you don't want to.
It's especially easy with Noel Plum because he's so fucking boring. I mean, if he stopped making videos, would anyone notice?
I think people might who have insomnia might.
Yeah, exactly. Well, absolutely, yeah. Or people who are not actually no, I'm not gonna do that joke. I just realised that would possibly be a little bit ableist. I'm not going there.
Huh, there you go. A self-check on air. Self-check.
Almost.
Anyway. The basic thing is apparently they've had this beef going back and forth for a while, and occasionally V will hear things that people will say to, you know, like he doesn't like, things about himself that he thinks are false. He claims that when he asks people where they got that information, it was from Harmful Opinions, and so there was a stream, both V and Harmful Opinions, I can't remember the guy's new name, I think he's going under something a little bit different now because his channel ended up being taken off of YouTube by trolls, by the sounds of it. But yeah, there was a Dr. Layman live stream, and there was a lot of shouting back and forth. And then V made a 40-minute video to basically say how unimportant this drama was to him, along those lines.
Shouting back and forth. I thought this wasn't. They didn't have emotions. These people. They were just pure logic. Lord.
Well, this is it, because V is in this sort of almost 40-minute video about this Harmful Opinions person talking about him. It was complaining that when he would confront him about the things allegedly he had said, the guy would say, "Oh, it's just a joke." And V talking about how unethical it is to make accusations when you don't have evidence against people.
Fuck you, man. And also, it seems how you're Carl's little gimp bitch. See, he does that all the time. Oh, it's just a joke, bro thing. Mm-hmm. So you can't get hurt about it when someone else pulls that move on you.
I know. I was just like laughing and sort of like, I don't know if this is too much irony for my blood. I might have to take it in small doses, because V trying to morally grandstand and claim ethical high ground above anyone is just the maybe it's a great way to start the year.
Maybe in order to try and show how ethically superior he is, he really should have, I don't know, picked out a recent murder victim and started laughing at them again. Because he's such an ethical creature, you know.
All right. So when he talks about things just being a joke and you should be able to laugh it off, yeah, he's the one who basically set the low bar as to the most outrageous thing you can do to try to use that as a cover. But
Yeah,
anyway, so there's some
it was
pressure.
so scummy that even Thunderfoot had to come out and say, "Actually, lads, I
Yes.
think this is a bit far now." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's just that there's he's being baited. V is being baited by people to go on a live stream and debate this harmful opinions guy, and he's not doing it. So anyway, it's just a sort of like little side drama that's going on, and I would just found it amusing too. So if you check out that 40-minute V video, it's on his channel. Yeah,
Do
it's
I
rather
really have
delicious.
to do 40 minutes of V? Can't I just watch a piece of shit slowly degrade into the mud? Like
Yeah, well, you
that
know,
would be more useful and less repugnant. Jesus. Anyway, apologies. Apologies. Like
however
I
you
said,
want to, yes, but however you want to spend
we
your
did the
guilty pleasure
highbrow
time.
stuff at the start, and now I've just done a shit analogy. So there you
Yeah,
go.
there we
That's
go.
happening. We should start all of our episodes with a highbrow piece. I've just
We
decided that.
should,
I've made an
just to make
executive.
ourselves, yes, feel look a little bit better.
Yeah, and go from, well, actually, I'm, the Horkheimer's theory of such and such. But oh yes, absolutely superb. Anyway, Sargon's a prick. I think that's the pattern we should follow.
Yep, find a way from going from highbrow right into discussing YouTube gossip. Speaking of YouTube gossip, I guess an update on Kilroy would also be not out of place at this point because it continues to go down in flames. So I think we left well, Kevin dropped out, so I'll just wait for him to come back in. But when we last left off, Sargon, I think, had said, well, he has anyway. I don't really follow what's going on, but I'm not going. So he's pulled out of it. The conference list of people who have attended is becoming less and less about YouTube personalities and more sort of obscure individuals. One of those being the creator and founder of Maker Support is listed as a speaker at that event now. And we've got people making videos on how to get refunds. There's some, apparently, I heard some chitter chat about. Yeah, you're back! Hurrah!
Apologies.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
I was just rolling about Kilroy background. The idea that this one guy's made a sort of a campaign called Destroy Kilroy. He made that last week. He made a video on how to get your refund, how to apply for a refund. There are some complaints from people saying that they're trying to get refunds and they're being turned down. So I don't even know at this point if anything is going to happen in Phoenix that weekend at all.
Well, I'd be surprised because the entirety of the staff of the event, apart from Based Mama, have now pulled out of organising the event. Like you say, there's this campaign to get refunds, and of course now Based Mama has essentially gone the internet version of Unabomber, gone off the grid. She's put her Twitter account to private, and is essentially radio silence from her. Which it's a shame because with Kilroy dying, obviously free speech has now died to the point where Based Mama is even censoring herself. That's how bad things have gotten now. You can tell, dear viewer, I am crying with laughter.
Yeah, and I mean, the finances, everything around that is just going to be a nightmare, as we talked about in a previous episode about, the planning that goes along with the conference and the budget and the timetable, the themes, the papers, and how they all get selected. And again, they just did everything in the reverse order. They made a huge, massive financial commitment by agreeing to rent this place. They raised a whole bunch of money, and then they started to put stuff together, and it was just bass backwards in terms of how you actually secure funding and a timetable for a conference.
Yeah.
There's just
appallingly put together. Really well, like you say, they made the financial commitment before they put it together. They essentially got the financial backing and made the financial commitment to put a conference on before they had anything resembling a plan or a conference to put on. And like you say, it done completely the wrong way around. And I can't help but take obviously shameful joy, to use the German phrase, at the downfall of this nonsense, but also to say, I told you so. I can't help but say I told you so. Because I fucking love saying it. I know that people say they don't. I absolutely love saying it and will do so at every possible turn. And of course, to point out to Based Mama, and not that she'll probably listen to this because I don't know, she's probably too busy not talking to anyone. I asked you specifically at the very start of this whether you were going to be okay with the alt-right there. And so the spark for this, if she'd have just come out from the very start and laid their cards on the table, it's still possible they could have had some semblance of a conference just without the alt-right, which would have been fine. But they didn't. She tried to play middle of the road game and essentially has ended up pleasing nobody by trying to please everybody. And it's a total shit show from start to finish. And fuck Dave Cullen and a fuck Based Mama for both being far right idiots.
Yeah, I don't think anyone associated with this has been able to get away with it without having a little bit of, shit cast on them. I don't think anybody really comes out of this looking great in terms of the people who are in charge of it and organizing it, communicating on its behalf and working, to promote it.
Yeah. I think probably the only person that comes out of it looking slightly better would be Tim Pool, because he was obviously the one that flagged up the issue of the non-compete clause and the non-disclosure agreement, which made him look like a journalist, which he isn't. And made him look like he has some sort of ethical standard, which he doesn't, as anyone can tell from his work. But it makes him look that way, and so basically he's the only one who has had anything positive for their reputation come out of this, which is fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of people who were happy to call out and from the sidelines and criticize and tear it down. But I actually would have been perhaps more impressed if somebody would have stepped up to try to fix things and save things. And maybe with Based Mama's personality, you just were never going to have that. But it seemed like rather than rallying around and trying to find a way forward for the conference, people just went to their immediate attack, tear down, attitude toward it.
Well, that's all they can do. That's all these people are. It's just attack, attack, attack. That's all they know how to do. This is what always annoys me when they're going about discussion. They're not interested in discussion. None of this free speech malarkey is about actual free speech, for a start, because they've shown they'd be censorious when it suits them. And of course, they're not interested in a discussion. They're interested in ponying people. That's it. So what's the point?
So yeah, I guess, Kilroy 2017 to 2017, 2018, which is only 2017 to 2017. I don't really know how they're going to go forward, but we can wait and see what happens.
Yeah, technically, I suppose it's still alive, but I'm going to count it in the of all the things we lost, of all the great people and great things we lost from the world. 2017 still had that one last kill in it, and I'm gonna chalk Kilroy up to 17 rather than 18. Because I really don't think it's now going to happen. Because it doesn't have any staff or any backers. And I'd be surprised if there are many speakers left, frankly. But there you go.
Hey, would you like an update on the drama with Maker Support?
Yes, I would, Christy. Yes.
Now, first of all, do I have to say, I should ask Kevin, did you have a chance to see the video I did on this right before I went on holiday? Do you know the background to it?
I know the background. I know up to the point you talked about on Facebook, but I didn't get to watch that video because I've watched nothing basically. I've been in the arms of Jack Daniels for the last few days. So I know nothing.
Well, that's fair enough because I tried to stay off social media except in the evenings when I was sort of like, that sort of time between when your legs are too tired to walk anymore and you're not quite asleep yet. But the gist of it was there was a company, it's basically like a Patreon type of company where you can create an account and people can join and pay through that website to support creators. They had advertised Bering's second account after he had been permanently banned from Twitter for various offenses, including sexual harassment and including of me. The company, when I saw this, I wrote them a letter that had some screenshots in it as documentation saying, hey, why are you promoting this guy? Because his content leads to my harassment. Here's some evidence that he has been doing harassment. Here's him talking about making a video to get his.
Is it Christy that's cut out or what?
Oh, did I cut out? Sorry, I don't know how to.
Oh.
Am I back now?
You are back, so it was you that cut out. Okay, I couldn't work it out. Because I couldn't work out whether my internet had dropped and I wasn't hearing what you were saying or whether your microphone.
Yeah. I don't know how to fix that. Anyway, where did I stop?
You were about to explain what happened once you wrote them a letter, which, by the way, just to interject whilst I am talking, I I have to say, what they did in response was pretty fucking scummy, I have to say.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, I wrote the letter, and I've been open about it. I've published it on Twitter. It basically said, this account produces content that results in my harassment, and you're promoting him, and by promoting this account, you're going to be promoting his content that's going to lead to more harassment. And I sent them some documentation of Bering being violating the Twitter rules, Bering actually saying he was going to make a video and mirror it to try to make me internet famous and you know, go after this robust or go after the most desperate cunt on the internet or whatever. And I said, you know, can I get a response from you as to why you're promoting this maker? The guy who owns the company, from my understanding, gave my entire letter right to Bering, and Bering took it, altered it in terms of its meaning. So he said that I had been sending quite a few messages. When you read it, it's obvious because it says "Dear Sirs" or "Madam," and it ends with my name. It's a contiguous letter. He said that I had tried to go after his source of income and that I was hurting him and his family. And that video, the last time I took a screenshot, had 110,000 views on it. I've been getting massive amounts of insults and threats and harassment online. One of the other things that Bering said in the video was, imagine I were to go on Google and look up where you worked, and imagine I were to write your company and say what a terrible person you were, but I wouldn't do that because I'm not a fucking prick. Of course, many of his followers are. And so I'm going to be collecting any evidence that comes to my employer to show this pattern of harassment. Now, in Bering's video, he said that he got the information from Maker Support and they have been supportive of him. Therefore, his fans should go and support Maker Support for being such a good company. I basically got in touch with the company saying, why are you giving my information? Why did you give this information? I'm pretty sure this has to be...
Just before you move on to, just before you move on to that second part of the story, it's absolutely astonishing to me that you complained to a company with information saying this person has been bullying me. Yes. And they went to the bully and went, look, this person's complaining about, basically stoking up a bully to bully someone even more. Yes. I mean, I can't imagine a more socially irresponsible attitude to take from a company. And I know, look, companies don't necessarily always have to have social responsibilities, but when it comes to something like bullying, what the fuck are you doing, you idiots? I mean, really, it's disgusting. Sorry, anyway, you were... No,
it's true. And Bering, of course, cites the company as the source and sort of legitimizes his interpretation of the letter.
Yeah, and what another example of Bering being a lying piece of shit by that one message, you're making it look like you send several messages when it's one fucking letter. Yeah.
Yep. Well, initially, I was met with defiance online. Bering didn't do nothing, basically, was the reaction. But a few days later, actually it was like the day I was going to be traveling back to Cologne, I received a private letter from the founder of the company apologizing to me for his ethical breach and acknowledging that my letter was an inquiry, not any kind of demand or accusation that I should take down Bering's account, and that the company was going to be putting in new procedures to make sure that complaints like mine would be handled more professionally in the future.
Yeah,
now, yeah, go ahead.
I think that response was fascinating because you shared that with a few select confidants online, and having read that, it sounded to me exactly like the response of a CEO of a company who'd had, let's say, some strong legal advice and was shitting their fucking pants about the possibility of being sued. That's what it sounded like to me.
Oh, yeah, because if I can basically create a link between my employer getting letters that are copying Bering's words dated from when his video came out, but not before, and then link that to the company that gave him the information improperly, as opposed to handling it privately, which he admits he should have. Yeah, I think that there is a big issue here, that that Bering has basically put this company in a very bad place. And the company continues to be in a bad place because Bering's video is defamation. Bering knows that he is misrepresenting the kinds of information in that letter, and he's citing that company as their source. So now he's libeling me or slandering me, depending on if you want to look at it as written or verbal, but he's doing that with the sort of under that company's auspices. So he's making them more legally liable to my claims that they're in cahoots to defame me.
Yeah, and but you say that Baring put them in that situation, and that is partly true. But they put themselves in
Oh,
a
yes.
actionable position as well by handing over your complaint to the person that you're complaining about, which is, I mean, like I say, it's just a remarkably stupid thing to have done. Let alone the fact that it's also an immoral thing to have done.
I would never have known about it if Baring wouldn't have made a video about it.
Yeah,
You know,
but he was
I
always
mean, they
doing.
could have shared it. They could have shared it and it would have been unethical, but I would have been ignorant.
Yeah.
And instead, he shared it with Baring, and Baring made a video about it, showing to the whole world what kind of dodgy practices this company was, engaging in.
Well, because like I say, there's no cleverness to what's going on here. It's just pwnage. He was only interested in making you look bad, whilst in the same video saying, "Well, let's not talk about each other anymore." So he wants to lie about you, slander
Yeah.
you, like you said, slander slash libel, whatever, yourself. Encourage his fans to harass you, including at your place of work, and then go, "Oh, well, let's not talk about each other anymore." Fuck you.
Right.
Like, what
Yeah.
kind of a prick are you, really?
Going forward, my options are so the company, as I said, the founder of the company is speaking at the Kilroy event, or is listed to anyway. And so that's, I mean, I didn't like dox him in any way. He brought out his information when people started asking him more about who he was following my video of complaint about how they handled my letter. And it's based in Indiana. And according to the laws that I've looked up, I've been on holiday, and also New Year's. I'm not expecting a lot of state civil servants to have been in, so I'm going to call after the new year. But the way that I'm going to proceed is to contact the state attorney general's office, because in Indiana, complaints about businesses are handled through that office. So to find out what my rights are under Indiana law, and maybe find some other consumer protection groups that would tell me what my rights are in terms of this case, that's where I'll be going in future, just so that everybody knows that. I would also, and I'm going to say this in a letter too, I would strongly advise Maker Support to look at the video that Baring put up, because they will see immediately that he is misrepresenting the content of my letter that they confirmed in that private letter to me. I think Maker Support should make a public apology to me for what they did, and also announce that changes in their procedures for handling complaints in future. And I'm going to strongly suggest that they tell Baring to take that video down and to issue a retraction for mischaracterizing it, and also telling his fans the new Maker Support policy, because they are currently under a false impression. So just going forward, I'm going to communicate that to the company, that they should watch their backs in terms of their legal liability, and I'm going to proceed with finding out what kind of complaint I can file, so that, yeah, it's on permanent record that this kind of problems were filed in the past against this company.
Yeah, I would advise Baring to apologise as well. I don't expect him to do so, but I think ethically he really ought to, because he lied. As well as a bullying piece of shit, he also lied. Just straight up lied, as confirmed by the company themselves.
Yeah, and I have messages from his fans where they talk about Baring and Maker Support in the same abusive message. So it's easy for me to demonstrate that these two acts, their release of my letter and Baring's defamatory video, are connected directly to the kinds of harassment I get based on Baring's defamations.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've got a pretty strong case, although obviously I'm not. I think it's worth pointing out, I'm not an expert in Indiana law. I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's why I have to call
If you were labouring under that viewer, then you were incorrect.
Yeah. But the more abuse I get in my comment section, I just document it, and it's all going into a file to demonstrate exactly the extent and the kinds of abuse that I can directly link to Baring's videos. So.
And yeah, and I would advise, I think it's a point I've made before, I would advise not just Maker Support, but social media / internet funding type sites to get their act together on this, because if you don't, eventually powerful enough people will become aware of this problem, and then government, who often can be heavy-handed in terms of legislation, will sort the fucking problem out instead. So why don't you do self-regulation rather than leaving it up to God knows what in terms of government legislation, which could cripple your industries if that happens. So get your fucking house in order and then you won't have to face that problem.
Quite. So that is the update on maker support and where that thing stands in that drama.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Is there any more for drama or?
I'm trying to think. No, it was like Jeff Holiday is still on the outs. There was all the Destiny's appearance on the Kumite with Tonka, and I think Ian Miles Chong was in the chat at some point. That was a crazy. If you haven't seen that, we can chat about it another time. But if you want to hear a bunch of people just screaming at each other like a Jerry Springer episode, you can go to
There's no emotions with these people. They're just logic. Pure logic.
I mean, seriously, it is like watching a soap opera, or just the amount of people who get together and scream at each other in a room, whether it's V versus Harmful Opinions, or Jeff versus Coach Red Pill, or Andy complaining about Jeff, or, Mundane Matt having a go. It's just like, it's all just people screaming at each other. And
even worse than that, it's essentially like the dynamics you get in groups of schoolgirls. And to a degree, I suppose, schoolboys as well. But I noticed it specifically with the schoolgirls. Immaturity, which you would expect of school children, that's fine. But in many cases, middle-aged men with children and things, and yet they're acting like bitchy little teenagers. It's really embarrassing.
And I have to say, I mean, in some ways, these guys are worse. I mean, I feel bad comparing them to schoolgirls because these are grown adults.
You expect that of children. That's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's everyone has that experience in school, or to a degree anyway. Whereas these, like I say, some of these men are in their 40s. What the fuck are you doing? You've got like children and responsibilities and stuff. Jesus Christ! Look, I always think this. I don't ever want to make things personal, but it's a thought that occurs in my mind. Does Carl Sagan McCad, does he think he's a good role model for his children?
Well, I am really loath to try to get inside the head of Carl Benjamin. I don't know the extent to which he did say that one thing, didn't he? That he was, I thought I saw someone had a clip of him from a video saying that he was saving all the videos he ever made because one day his son was going to watch them and be proud of what his father had done.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure, I didn't dream that. I'm pretty sure I saw that in a video somewhere.
I can't help but feel Carl's videos might be worth saving because they might help his son's therapist at some point in the future. But other than that, I can't imagine that they're going to help his kid in any way whatsoever. His kid must be... Imagine that. You're going to grow up and know that your dad said to a fucking member of parliament, I wouldn't even rape you. That's Jesus Christ. The idea of my dad having said that makes my skin crawl. And that's just a hypothetical.
Well, in these chats, it's pretty standard that if anyone, when the Destiny sort of Tonka thing they were going back and forth, Andy Jaworski was there and they were talking about voter suppression. And it's just astounding the extent to which when people on the other side hear facts or evidence that they don't like, they'll just turn it into an ad hominem. The number of times that, Destiny's trying to make a point and someone would just insert a random ad hominem from a discussion they had from like a half an hour ago, just to distract him and undermine him. It's the weakest, most inauthentic, intellectually dishonest format I think I've seen on YouTube, because the people, as you said, they're not there to actually engage with the ideas and talk about, let's say, what are the public policy outcomes of reducing the absentee or early voting from 13 days to 7 days when it means taking away an extra Souls to the Polls, which is a program that is used heavily by African American voters on the 2 Sundays before the election. What are the public policy outcomes? And instead you just go, well, if people can go to the DMV, then they're not being stopped from being able to vote. And you're like, I'm sorry, are we having a two-dimensional conversation here, or are we grown-ups? And the real lowest common denominator, appeal to emotion, go for the ponage, go for the ad hom attitude that pervades in that community, it's Jerry Springer for politics. You're not going to learn anything except if somebody else comes in there with better facts than most of the people who hang out. It's really a sad state of affairs.
Well, like I say, they're not interested in discussion. There's no doubt about that. But there you go. Anyway, if we're done with ponage, I thought it would be interesting because I was going to do a sort of video within either today or tomorrow or something. Thoughts about what we expect from 2018, having watched 2017 sail into the past, which I can't say I'm entirely sad to have seen happen, and how humanity has made it to the year 2018, I don't know, but we have. What do we expect to happen over the next 12 months? We've got obviously talk about YouTube drama and stuff, although God knows where that's going in the next 2 days, let alone fucking 365. Unless it's a leap year. I don't know if it's a leap year. I don't fucking care. And also, in terms of, we've got the midterm elections coming up in America, which I thought would be of note to your good self, albeit it's still a while away yet.
Do you want to go with your predictions first? Because I haven't gotten my head around it. I'll have to think a little bit, so I'll think while you talk.
Oh, okay. Well, in terms of YouTube, I expect another 6 million videos on SJWs. I expect them not to have a go at Trump because they've essentially thrown their lot in terms of not giving a fuck about that. So basically, nothing really will change there. Although hopefully YouTube get their act together because, like I say, they're going to have to do something about the bile that exists on their fucking side. We've already had a minister in Britain talking about potential fines for companies that don't help tackle extremism online. So that, I mean, YouTube are going to have to get their order there. In terms of the midterms, it's looking relatively good for the Democrats, but they always have a way of dropping the ball. I mean, they to the point where they allowed Donald Trump to become president, basically. So I mean, I don't hold out much hope, but it's still it's looking good in the sense that they have a phenomenally, historically unpopular president, and the GOP, even though they control all three branches, have managed to do very little with it.
I would say on YouTube, I actually foresee a continuing, what I'm starting to see now, a realignment of creators who are going to find common ground with those who take a stand against the platforming of white supremacists on YouTube channels and people who don't. And I think that that's going to be like the new, unfortunately, it's going to be like where the feminism ponage was in the past. I'm already seeing it. There are sort of like weird alliances now of people who are like, the whole thing with the alt-right is going too far, and other people who are still very much in the marketplace of free ideas camp of discussing it. And then there are people on the alt-right who just have an agenda to get their ideas out and make themselves look reasonable, who are going to be willing to take advantage of those people who wrongly think that the marketplace of ideas isn't anything but an ad populum fallacy. Yeah. So I think in that way, we're going to see some changes in focus of content and the change of the debate. To be honest, I'm a little bit worried looking ahead because when it comes to, Behring trolls are pretty awful. I've been doxxed by them. I've been harassed for a year now by his fans. I will still acknowledge that that Nazi trolls are worse than Behring fan trolls. And if we as a community start to realign along taking up the lines of making anti-alt-right propaganda videos in 2018, that ire is going to be directed at anyone who wants to poke their head out over out of the trench, so to speak, because coming off of the Kraut Gate fiasco, I think the alt-right on YouTube are feeling quite empowered and are sort of strutting around feeling like they have taken on their critics and defeated them.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, I think that's true. But like I said, there have been some weird alignment. I think the most drastic would be someone like Dusty Smith, who's gone from being one of those assholes, albeit that he was always a bit racist, but with progressive politics in other areas, like on gay marriage and things, and legalization of pot and so on and so forth. But he was sort of in that marketplace of ideas bullshit, and has now, I think, to an extent, seen the way in which it's gone in America and changed quite drastically, which is good to see that you can have that kind of strident position and change your mind on things, which is good.
I think in Dusty's case, he was of the opinion that while campus feminists or campus progressives were a problem, the focus on them became all out of proportion because people were chasing the money, and rather than critique real attacks on free speech, they didn't want to alienate their right-leaning audience and take a stance for free speech. So they just kept churning out the same SJWs are bringing down the world kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
In terms of the midterm, I agree that the wind is at our backs for the Democrats. I think that we always have to keep in mind the structural disadvantages because of gerrymandering and voter suppression laws that Republicans have on the books. And yes, in some places they are being challenged and overturned, but in some places they're still in effect. For instance, my home state of Wisconsin, there was a study about the number of people that were turned away, or people who are made to cast provisional ballots rather than have their votes actually count for the election.
But there are no black people in Wisconsin. What's the excuse there?
Yes, actually, Milwaukee, sadly, and I laugh, but actually it's a really sad thing. It's one of the most segregated cities in the United States, and it's in the north.
No way. Well,
Yeah.
That's deeply depressing.
Yes, and it's all that sort of like Minnesota nice racism, which is, it's not overt. It's all sort of passive aggressive. You stay in your side of the street, I'll stay on mine, kind of, and then we can be sort of coolly polite to each other and not really talk about the problems of racial relations in America. So I think that, but yeah, you're right. The Democrats have a chance to pick up possibly the House. There's now, the Senate is much closer after Alabama. And I think Nevada is a place where the Democrats, I think, is up in 2018. But I'll know all the states where there are swing elections in about 7 months' time. So I'll have them memorized by then. But I do think that that there's a lot of typical hand-wringing that I see people complain about, and I don't see a lot of evidence for it. So the idea that Democrats don't have a message, I disagree. I think they have a message which is about preserving and expanding Obamacare, fixing the problems, making it work for more people. I think they have reorganizing the tax code so it works for working families and it helps provide services. It doesn't just give tax cuts or breaks that are going to be funneled into offshore accounts. I think they have a commitment to reforming voter laws. I think they have a commitment to choice and women's reproductive access. I think they have a commitment to increasing the minimum wage and doing more to make sure that people are actually, that working a 40-hour week doesn't mean you're still on food stamps. And so just because it's not, I don't know, I think the message is there. The problem, as it's always been with Trump, is that when Trump is in the room, he sucks up all the oxygen. And when the media have Democratic candidates or spokespeople or officials on, they're always asked to react to Trump. And it's very difficult to put out your message when you're being asked to react to this idiot in the White House. So is there a messaging problem? I don't think there's a messaging problem with the message. I think that Democrats have to not worry about the media chatter and be targeting people on social media with their messages, with billboards, with television ads and more in their homes, talking to them directly in the doorsteps when we go and knock on doors. I think that's how we get the message out, because we can't expect the media to help us with that when their obsession is with Trump.
Yes, I think that's true. And we'll cover the midterms in more depth the closer we get to it. But I thought getting some early ideas on the board wouldn't be terrible. Have you got any plans for your channel in the upcoming 12 months?
I'm kind of thinking about doing more chats like this. In some ways because it's easier to stay up to date with current events. So I'd like our show on the YouTube side to continue, but maybe also to do something like a once a week live thing where I just talk about politics and the week. I'm entertaining those ideas. And then I have an endless list of videos that are still needing to get made that got pushed back over the holiday season because things were so busy. But yeah, I think going forward, I would like to, try to do a bit more reaction to current events rather than waiting and doing a set, like sort of 10-minute video on an issue because of the time it ends up taking. And also, I'm writing at work and I find it really, really hard to write for a script when I've been writing all day in the office, and I don't see me not writing for a lot of 2018. I think I'm going to have to write a lot. So the more spontaneous radio podcast kind of formats seem to be a good way for me to keep producing content on things I care about without being as demanding as making a video piece. How about yourself?
Yeah, I've got a few ideas floating around the head. I want to do it's something I planned to do last year actually, but never got around to it. I do something positive because a lot of my channel is, oh, this is a thing I hate. Fuck this person. Whereas to do just do a show called something like Stuff I Love, where basically each episode would be me telling you about a thing I actually like and why I like it. Because people would get the idea from my channel that I'm just this remorselessly negative person, and I'm really not. I'm a joyous, happy freak, and I want people to know that a little bit more and to show you a little bit more of my world. So I'm probably going to do that. Going to carry on with the Descent of Manosphere videos, although production has ceased over the last week or so on all the videos I have currently churning because, well, frankly, I've been too drunk to do anything. But I'm going to continue doing those. Yeah, and basically carrying on as I was, but with some adding some more positive stuff in there as well.
I agree. I mean, it's easy to kind of flip on a video when you're passionate about something and make it, but then the things that you care about, you don't have that sort of intensity in the moment, even though you enjoy them more for more of your day.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah.
I know that I haven't done one for a while. I really should. But when Steve and I did like our sociology of 12 Angry Men, or we, talk about Sherlock, for instance, that was those were really enjoyable chats and also off topic and shows more of who you are. So I would look forward to that content as well.
Interesting possibility someone threw up in the chat here. Oh, hey, Christy, I would love to see you talk to Destiny. I'm sure it could be great, especially since I think he could need your academic perspective.
Yeah, I think that I would love to talk to Destiny, actually. I don't agree with, he's had a controversial past, which he doesn't shy away from. And so I'm not going to say, I approve of everything he's ever done. He's admitted wrongdoing. But I do admire greatly his tenacity to the goal of the topic at hand. So in that Kumite stream, one of the things they were talking about was whether or not the transmission of HIV should be to a misdemeanor with the public policy outcome goal of having more people being willing to be tested and then disseminate information about who they might have transmitted the disease to. And everyone was just saying, you want to decriminalize giving people AIDS. And it was like, no, that's not what he's saying at all. But again, they come back to these really simplistic arguments, and he really, they insult him, they try to bait him, and occasionally he rises to it, but he does come back to the topic again and again, trying to say what's unreasonable about wanting to see a reduction in HIV transmissions or getting people to come forward and be tested and to notify people. What's the problem with that? And they don't want to have those conversations. So I think it would be an interesting discussion to have, because again, I'm not going to try to straw man him, and I'm actually going to try to understand what the policy implications are, and then the positive and negative sides of things. So yeah, I would love to have that chat.
Well, make it happen then, is what I would say, because I'd love to see that too.
Yes. I can just imagine the chat. It would be invaded. It would be so much fun. Yeah, I don't know if he has any interest in chatting with me. I'm a pretty small channel. But I guess my notoriety will precede me.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I think both you and I have reached beyond our numbers, if that makes sense. Like there's a brand recognition beyond the subscriber numbers because of, well, idiots, but popular idiots who mentioned us / talk to us or whatever. So that's, yeah. I think he would. I don't see why not. He'll talk seemingly with anybody, won't he?
I did try to. I talked to Tim about going on to the Worski show with Bering, actually, and to basically say, hey, you know what, Bering can bring all his evidence of his allegations that Danny and I conspired, that Danny and I collected this data, that Danny and I talked to Cobalt Cat, because with his buddy Jeff Holiday, we know what a doxing circle looks like. We know the kind of communications and the number of interactions that you have to do, right? And also to look at the time period from the first time the article was put up on December 6th and then the information that was put up on the 17th, and see if Bering has, he won't, because he made all this up, but basically said, let's talk about that. We'll each present our evidence. And so Tim asked Andy, and Andy said, okay, I'll ask Bering. And Andy went to Bering, and Bering said no. Now, if honestly, if you had been doxxed and your doxer was saying, come and show how I screwed you over, wouldn't you want that opportunity to face the person
Yeah,
and be presented with the evidence and to
I think
say, here, this is why I'm accusing you? Because I want the opportunity to face Bering and say, here's all the reason why I think you're wrong and here's why I think you're lying, and have him explain. But
yeah,
he
I
won't do
think
that.
I can think of no greater indictment of the full of Bering in terms of him being a false accuser than the fact that he was given a perfect opportunity on a big platform to prove his case, or
Mm-hmm.
even just to insinuate the case, and he wouldn't even do that.
And Tim was there. Tim is his source. So Tim could personally testify to what was in the Bering cab conversation. So what's there to hide from except the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, a little bit more, guys. I think Pascal in the chat said something about JF and the controversy going on with JF right now.
Oh
And
yes, yeah. He's wanting to impregnate a I don't know what the correct term would be someone with a mental handicap of some variety, and she has the apparently the mental age of a 10-year-old, and yet he thinks he should be allowed to have sex with her. Which, on a moral level, is that the same as pedophilia? It seems pretty much the same, doesn't it? It's pretty fucking wrong. You must know that. But apparently, that's the ethics of the alt right. It's okay to fuck the mentally handicapped if you want to.
I think there are two issues when it comes to JF. One is the way that he's trying to do the sidestep from describing data on a complicated socially constructed measure that is highly, how should I say this? It's not a measurement that we've found can be working perfectly in all time periods and all time points and all cultures and still measure the same thing regardless of where and when it was applied. It's not a static measure like 100 mil, right? Intelligence as a concept is something that changes as our understanding of it changes. Anyway, he's making descriptive claims about mean intelligence scores and then trying to justify sort of a white ethno state in terms of homogeneity.
Yeah, he's a racist piece of shit, would be the short way of saying that.
And then there's the question about his behavior. And with regards to sounds like quite a few women. There's someone who said, and I haven't seen this myself, but someone quoted him in a hangout saying that he had women accuse him of sexual harassment. Again, that's hearsay from a hangout, so I'd have to actually see that to sort of verify it. So take that as not just with some caution. But he certainly has demonstrated a willingness. I'm disturbed by the way that he, on the one hand, will claim that who is the person that had the love song with Kraut? Again, My Heart Will Go On parody.
No idea. What?
No, she was in. We talked about her the one time, and I couldn't remember her name then either. She's a sociology PhD conservative who wanted to help Kraut with his studies on the alt-right. Anyway, he basically would sort of white knight for her about how terrible Kraut treated her in that live stream. But every time I saw him in appearance, he would bring up out of context the fact that Liz Reptile had once propositioned him and he turned her down. And he would say it, he says it in far more degrading terms, sexually humiliating, and basically sort of lords it over that she wanted him and he turned her down. He doesn't, yeah, so there are a lot of issues about his attitudes that I see as problematic. On the moral issue of his behavior, I think that's one discussion that, because now he's talked about it and it's in the public sphere, people are talking about it, that's an issue of his character. But then there's a separate issue of the way that he uses information to justify normative positions or value positions that I don't think that misses a logical step. And that logical step is the implied racism that connects those two things.
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that's actually a really good summation of the situation, basically, yes.
Well, it's not me. I'm quoting Hume. I'm quoting someone way smarter. David Hume, back in the 1700s, identified this as is ought problem. He says people will say things exist in nature, therefore we ought to do them as human beings. For instance, human beings evolved to eat meat, therefore we should eat meat. And he's saying there's a difference between describing what people have done in the past and saying normatively we should eat meat as a good thing, right? So someone who's vegetarian could say, yes, we ate meat in the past and now we've evolved beyond it because we have alternatives we don't have to kill. You can't get to a moral justification by citing a neutral fact. You have to connect the fact with something else to that to justify your moral claim. And that's what a lot of race realism is. It's going from, hey, there are some differences, therefore we should live apart.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's well. Yeah. I can't think of anything to add to that other than you're correct, Krista. That is
David Hume's correct.
David Hume. Christie's correct. I'm sure someone else thought of it before him as well. There's nothing new under the sun in that regard.
That's true, but when you put your name on it and you publish it, then you get to claim it's yours. There's actually a paper about the fact that some people come up with ideas and then other people, a second person who comes up with them actually gets famous for them. Yeah. And they give a whole bunch of examples of this and they give it a name and I can't remember what it is, but it's some sort of phenomenon. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. Yeah, that people have stolen shit for fucking ever. That's the thing. Just because he was around before, someone would have thought of it, and I'm sure someone did before. And if he disagrees, he can fucking sue me. Let's see him do that. So we started with a highbrow conversation, and then we ended with me calling out a dead man. So
there you go. Fight him.
Yeah. That's a happy hour right there.
Yes. Last calls, last orders. We're wrapping it up.
Indeed. Don't forget to take your glasses back to the bar.
Please do, yeah. Don't put any more money in the jukebox. You won't be here to listen.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, a good way to start the year. Oh, we didn't even bring up. Have we got the shot of? I just matter. I'm going to put it as the screenshot for the fucking the thumbnail for when I put this on my channel. But the that image that you showed me on Facebook from what's his?
The academic agent.
Yeah, the weird triangle
pyramid.
Thing.
I don't know how. I followed some subtweet on Twitter and ended up at a post by the academic agent. And on it, he had this sort of triangle of bullshit where he tried to organize political theory into classical liberalism, fascism, and socialism.
Yeah.
International socialism.
Yeah.
And on the international socialism, he had pictures of like Lenin and Marx and Jeremy Corbyn and
Kevin fucking Logan. What? I'm staring at the image of me next to fucking Vladimir Lenin. What the fuck's going on here? I thought 2018 got to a spicy start. That's ridiculous.
Like, oh my gosh, Kevin has to see this. This is too funny.
I'm going to put that as the thumbnail. It's an image that I can't get out of my head. The idea that anyone would think, I mean, other than the fact that we're fans of facial hair, I can't see any connection between me and basically any of the people I was put next to.
When I was so Oshkosh B'gosh has a sort of playful thing at their factory store. It's like New York, London, Paris, Oshkosh, and I just feel like international socialism should be like Marx, Lenin, Gramsci, Logan.
Well, if someone wants to mock that image up on the fucking what do you call it I forgot the fucking. Basically, if you want to do a photo edit of me, that image where you've got the leaders but in staggered, like in a row, just the busts of the people of like Lenin and Stalin and Marx and blah blah blah. And if someone wants to put my face in there as well, that would be funny, and I would definitely put that as my Twitter background because.
Please at me with that too.
Yeah, exactly, because that would be amazing. But there we go. Photoshop. There we go. I was thinking of the fucking word and I couldn't think of it. There you go. Photoshop.
Well, just in time for the end of the hour because this is our happy hour and it is now coming to a close. So thank you guys in the chat. We got a couple questions. So we're making an effort. We're building in more and more. Thank you for showing up and for your comments. Thanks to the moderators too for doing a great job. Thanks to you guys for watching all the way to the end of the video. And so all that's left to be said is that I've been awesome. Kevin has been awesome. You guys, of course, are always awesome. Goodbye from me and goodbye from Kevin. Say goodbye, Kevin.
Goodbye, Kevin.
Bye-bye, you guys.